The moment you think the quiet ones are weak, that's when the storm arrives. Emily never said much. She kept to herself, tending the farm and caring for her animals. But today, as she was tied to a tree by the cruel kids from town, she realized the silence of her life had hidden more strength than anyone could imagine. One phone call, one whisper of her husband's name, and the people who thought they were untouchable would soon find out exactly why Emily's quiet life was anything but ordinary. Chapter 1. The calm before the storm. Emily had always been a simple girl. Raised on a sprawling farm in the heart of Tennessee, her days were filled with feeding chickens, milking cows, and walking barefoot through fields drenched in morning dew. She was quiet, reserved, and unassuming, a girl who blended seamlessly into the rhythms of rural life. The townspeople barely noticed her, and that was fine by Emily. She liked the quiet. She liked the peace. But she also carried a strength within her, a kind of inner steel that only those closest to her ever glimpsed. Emily's husband, Marcus, had joined the Delta Force years ago. Their love had been instant and intense, a spark that grew into a bond forged from mutual respect, deep understanding, and unwavering loyalty. Marcus admired Emily's quiet resilience, the way she faced life's hardships without complaint. Emily, in turn, had been drawn to Marcus's courage, his discipline, and his ability to protect those he loved. But he was often away on long deployments, leaving her to manage the farm alone. Emily never minded. It was her choice. But it also meant she was vulnerable in ways Marcus was not there to shield her from. On that fateful afternoon, Emily was walking through the orchard when the local bullies cornered her. They had tormented her for months, cruelly mocking her quiet nature, her simple clothes, her old truck, and her love for the farm. But this time it escalated. They dragged her behind the barn, tied her to a massive oak tree, and left her dangling like an object, their laughter echoing through the fields. Panic surged in her chest, but Emily refused to scream. She knew the worst thing she could do was give them the satisfaction. She waited, she listened, and she reached for her phone, trembling, to make the call that would change everything. Marcus answered on the second ring. The calm, measured tone that had comforted her through years of danger filled her ears. "Emily," he said, concern evident in his voice. She explained everything, her words a mixture of fear, frustration, and silent fury. "Stay where you are," he ordered. "I'm coming." And then, without a word, Marcus hung up. Minutes felt like hours as Emily struggled against the ropes. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the field. She began to doubt. Maybe he wouldn't make it in time. Maybe this would be her undoing. But then a distant rumble grew louder, and the unmistakable sound of an engine approaching broke through the tense silence. Her heart leaped. Marcus arrived faster than anyone could imagine, moving with the precision and intensity of a trained operative. The bullies froze, laughing turning into fear, as he stepped from the truck. Every move was deliberate, every word measured. Emily watched, stunned, as the people who had humiliated her for months suddenly realized they were outmatched. The ropes cut, the tree was cleared, and she was in his arms in seconds, safe, shaken, but alive. The bullies scrambled, but it was too late. The farm was Marcus's territory now, and his presence alone was enough to ensure justice would be served. Chapter 2. The reckoning and the healing. After the immediate threat had passed, Emily sat on the porch with Marcus, the cool evening breeze brushing over them. Her hands still trembled, but her heart had begun to settle. She realized in that moment just how fragile life could be, and yet how resilient one could remain even in the face of danger. She had thought herself weak, a quiet farm girl, but the truth was that her strength had always been there. It had merely needed the right circumstances to reveal itself. The bullies, humiliated and defeated, faced consequences that went beyond mere punishment. The town had always underestimated Emily, but now they understood the truth. She was not alone, she was protected, and her life was not to be trifled with. News of the incident spread through the small community, but instead of ridicule, people began to admire her calm bravery. She hadn't fought back with fists or anger. She had fought with patience, courage, and trust in the one person who would come for her. Marcus stayed by her side for days, helping her repair the farm, reinforcing fences, and making sure every vulnerable corner of her world was secure. But beyond the physical safety, he offered something even more important: reassurance, love, and respect. Emily realized she didn't need to shout or prove herself to the world. Strength came in many forms, and sometimes it was found in quiet endurance, patience, and the willingness to ask for help when it mattered most. As the sun set over the fields, Emily walked barefoot once again, this time with Marcus beside her. She looked out over the land she had always loved, her home that had been both her sanctuary and her battleground. The trauma of the day lingered, but it no longer held power over her. She had faced fear, called for help, and survived with dignity intact. In her heart, she knew the real victory wasn't in defeating the bullies. It was in realizing her own courage, her own worth, and the strength of the love that protected her. By nightfall, the farm was calm again, the animals settled, and Emily finally allowed herself to breathe fully, free of fear. She understood now that her life could never be defined by the cruelty of others, but by her response, her choices, and the people who truly stood by her. The quiet farm girl had become a symbol of resilience, and with Marcus by her side, nothing in the world could shake her again. And as the stars shimmered above the Tennessee fields, Emily whispered to herself, silence doesn't mean weakness. It means patience, and sometimes it means power. Doesn't always shout. Sometimes it waits quietly, ready to rise at the right moment. Courage, love, and trust in those who truly protect you can overcome even the darkest moments.